Welcome to another episode of Soft Signal. My name is Varun.
And my name is Aditya.
Yeah, as you can see today, we actually have a guest joining us, Rahul, all the way from not so sunny California, in the US. Um, Thanks for joining us, Rahul. Do you want to just quickly intro yourself? Maybe just how long you've been watching cricket, any specific memories that you have?
Sure. Well, I've been watching cricket for a good part of what, 25 years now. Yeah. Favorite memory, I think, would be Sharjah versus Australia, Sachin Tendulkar and the Dust Storm. I think that was by far his best innings.
Yeah,
And I'm not talking about the final, I'm talking about the one which they lost. Uh, so,
yeah.
yeah.
In many ways, that was a better innings,
And,
just to even to get us to a final, which was different from where we are today with Indian cricket. But yeah, thanks so much for joining. It's always good to have more people on the pod. So today's topic, a couple of weeks ago in our last episode, we looked at fresh from the high of the Champions Trophy win, we looked at the best innings by an Indian batsman in an ICC tournament. And we had a number of strong contenders. It was just Aditya and me. So we had a bit of back and forth over a few innings. Ultimately, it was an innings that it was before we were born, which are not many innings these days. But it was Kapil Dev's 183, 175 in 1983 against Zimbabwe. So that won out against a very unworthy finalist, but that's the way the draw went. So today we're trying to flip it around, this is what we call our trauma hour, trying to look at some of the best innings against India by opposition batsmen, of course, and in ICC tournaments. So these are from uh, Champions Trophy, ODI World Cups, and T20 World Cups. Could also have included World Test Championship, but we never got any of them in the list. Um, so I'll bring up the contenders in a minute. We're going to go the same format. We'll have 8 innings, 4 quarterfinal matchups, 2 semis, and then one grand final. We have 3 people here, so the voting will be more interesting. We'll see who gets outvoted more than the other. So I'm going to bring it up. Before we bring it up, I know just in the 8 itself, there might be ones that came up. We all made our own list before this also, and there were some that so few honorable mentions like Jay Surya's 80 odd against India in the group stages 2007, Tamim Iqbal's I think 50 something in against India in the World Cup in 2007, Misbah ul Haq's final T20 World Cup final innings. So there were a few uh, which didn't, but we only wanted to stick to 8, so that's why we've got the 8, and this is our opinion. So if you're watching it, that's what you're stuck with. So I'm gonna bring that up right now, and then we can go through those like we did for the last one. So, the risk of sounding too corporate, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can
All
see it.
good? Awesome.
You
Okay.
cannot drop the corporate jargon.
Yeah, it's all stuck. But yeah, so there are 8 innings on screen, no fancy animation, so you can see all of them at once. But we'll just go um top left, top right, bottom right in that order. So I'll maybe we'll just talk through each of the innings for each of the matchups. So I'll start with the first one. So the first matchup that we have is both semifinals, but 20 years apart and different formats. So it's Arvinda De Silva, 66 of 47 versus India in the 96 ODI World Cup semifinal. One of the best innings that I've seen. I was only 7 years old then, so I don't remember as much watching it live, but I've watched it back. I've read about it. There have been so many articles written about it. People who actually watched it, who are much older than us, uh, had like rated as one of his probably his best innings. So he came in at 1 for 2 in the first over, and then he totally took apart India, right? So like they had brought on Kumble in the second over, trying to capitalize on the start that they got. But even though they lost a third wicket soon after, they were 30 for 3, I think. He didn't stop. the way he didn't stop the way he was playing. Like he continued in his um like he was
Mhm.
just basically like a man on a mission that day, right? So 66 of 47. In any context, that's a great innings. But if you add the context of a World Cup semi-final, first ever World Cup semi-final for Sri Lanka, coming in at 1-2, extremely hostile crowd. And he got out when the score was 80 something, but he set the tone for the rest of the innings. They got to 240, and then we all know what happened in the second innings where India couldn't even complete their innings. But yeah, I think that's just an innings that really Sri Lanka had already made an impact on their World Cup, but that really elevated them to um, another level and set the tone for their final victory as well. A few days later, who wants to talk about the Lendl Simmons innings?
Yeah, I can talk about this one. It was one of my picks. So I think yeah, 2016 T20 World Cup semi-final, India's put up around 190 on the board, and we're against a strong West Indies side. Except that everyone's except I mean it was strong because of Chris Gayle mainly. So everyone's expecting Chris Gayle to sort of go crazy at the top of the order, but Bumrah gets him out, and soon after India's kind of got a second wicket. I think Samuels it was, and things look good for India. Except that Lyndon Simmons comes to the crease. Okay, he was lucky. He got dropped a few times. I think there were a few no balls and so on. But I think he just took the game away from India because 82 runs, 50 balls in a World Cup, T20 World Cup semi-final. I think that sort of an innings is good enough to successfully chase 190. Also, no one really expected Lendl Simmons, right, of all people, to come in and get those runs. It was more for people like Gale or Samuels to come in and play that sort of an innings. But I thought Lendl Simmons was a surprise. Maybe India was surprised by the fact that it is Lendl Simmons that's doing this to them. And he sort of held the innings for the West Indies. He set up partnerships with different people. Right at the end, him and Andre Russell absolutely exploded to take West Indies home. So I think that innings was a match-winning innings and totally worthy of its place in this amazing list of ours.
Yeah, I think also something to note about both these innings, but they were both in India and against
In
very
India, exactly.
hostile crowds. So,
Yeah.
Rahul, anything
Yes.
you want to add about either of these innings before we put it to a
So
vote?
actually, both of them, De Silva's innings versus India was just amazing. It was at Eden Gardens, you know. I think this was the first semi-final, and no one thought that Sri Lanka was going to do anything with that. I remember watching that match, and yeah, De Silva just. I think it was after De Silva. I think it was Mahanama. I think came in or something, did
Yeah,
something
and
like that.
Tilak
Yeah.
Ratne, all those
Yeah.
players. Yeah.
So, but De Silva just, they just and 66 and 47 at that point of time, the strike rate of what 120 or something. That was huge, and Sri Lanka was known for their quick first 15 over aggressiveness, and then Jayasuriya and Kaluthan. I think both of them got out, and then De Silva just came in.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so that was brilliant. The Lendl Simmons was also good. I think that was Mumbai, right? Yep.
Mumbai, yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was at Mumbai. Yeah,
Yeah. That was also, I think India made about 195, 196 or something.
something
And
like that.
yeah, and they just came in and, both were good. Worthy opponents.
Okay, let's put it to vote then. Rahul, why don't you go first?
Okay. I think De Silva, because that just set the tone. And I think that was more important in a way that, well, both these teams went on to win the World Cups, respective World Cups. But I think Eden Gardens at that point in 1996, with all the high about India, I think that one would be my choice, my vote.
Want to go next?
So
Sure.
who's voting next? Is it me
Yeah,
or
go
is
for
it
it.
you? Well,
Go for it.
okay. So although I sort of vote, I had sort of put Lendl Simmons in the list. I have to agree that Arvinder De Silva's innings was the better one. Because 66 of 47 in 1996 at a strike rate of 120, that's particularly destructive for its time, right? If it was 66 or 47 today, it wouldn't be hailed as destructive. But 66 or 47 in 1996, after the two so-called most destructive opening batsmen were dismissed, I think Arvinda's innings just set the tone for Sri Lanka and basically won the match for them right there. So, yeah, for me, I think Arvinda De Silva as well.
Yeah. Well, my vote doesn't matter, but I was going to go for Arvinda also because like this is my pick in the list also. I think we couple of us picked it or maybe all of us picked it, but yeah, I think this was just one of the innings that people will remember forever. I think if you ask a Sri Lankan fan, they might even say this is their favorite innings ever in all cricket. So yeah, we have Arvinda making it to the semi-final, and I will do my very fancy copy paste, move him over. Uh, let's move on to uh, quarterfinal number two, and they're both now in finals, but different tournaments again. One is the Champions Trophy final, one is an ODI World Cup final. Maybe I can talk about the Cairns innings, and then Rahul, you can talk about the head innings. That works. Um, so Chris Cairns, 102 of 113 in the final. Yes, the Indian team at that time was not the strongest team. They were still rebuilding after the disastrous 90s and the match fixing saga, but there was an Indian team which was really in form in that tournament. So they had beaten Australia and then they had beaten South Africa in the quarters and semis, which no one had expected them to do. And New Zealand was not a great team either, right? So New Zealand was a team that kept making semifinals and stuff, but it was very similar. They weren't as good as they are today. Like they were a pretty average team. A lot of all-rounders like Chris Cairns, Harris, Nathan Astle, McMillan, like a lot of cricketers who would not make an all-time 11, but were really useful cricketers, you can say. So, and then they were chasing 260, I think, in the final. And then they were 130 for five, and Chris Cairns was already at the crease, but he then put on a partnership of about 100 with Chris Harris, and they managed to win the game by 4 wickets. And it was New Zealand's first ever ICC tournament victory, so the pressure there as well. I also recently watched a short documentary by New Zealand Cricket about this tournament, and yeah, no one was expecting them to. They weren't expecting to win either. But yeah, this was just against all odds, and I think Cairns was a supremely talented cricketer, and this was the career highlight for him. So that's why I picked this to be in the list. Okay, let's talk about Travis Head.
That was just the latest breakup, heartbreak for India. That innings, well, 2023 World Cup final in Ahmedabad, India versus Australia. India were the favorites to win. They didn't start off well, uh, but still they scored what, 240, 250 or something like that, 240. And then but it was still a final though, so you never know with Indian spinners and the wicket in Ahmedabad. It was always going to be difficult, but then Travis Head just came in and just started smashing, and he was a stable influence. I think he stayed till the end, I believe. He just got
Yeah,
out
just the last
right,
ball. Yeah,
last ball or something. Yeah. So Travis Head has always been problem. They call him the headache, right? That India, Travis
yeah.
headache for
Ravi
India.
Shastri called him. Yeah.
Ravi Shastri called him that. But I think that was, World Cup final with, chasing 240. It's not that easy doing that in against the hosts, and he just shut the crowd down. So
Yeah. And yeah, again, and India was on such a ride in that tournament, right? 10 wins in a row. So yeah, let's Aditya, do you have anything to add? And like let us know what you think and then also just put it to vote. You go first in the vote as well.
Yeah, so I think both really worthy innings. Um, I think And I think both those innings were played in a final, right? So obviously a lot of pressure on each one of those players. But yeah, I think the 2000 the Champions Trophy final in 2000 is sort of almost a forgotten kind of tournament. Like nobody really remembers it that much. Obviously, the New Zealand players probably do, and Chris Cairns definitely does. But he was a special player, probably really one of the best all-rounders, right? At his peak, anyways. And Travis Head, yeah, of course. I mean, just a pain for India always in all formats. And I think that was his finest hour, or more than just an hour. But yeah, it was a great knock. So should I then cast my vote then?
Yes, please.
Um, okay, so I think after saying all of that, I have decided to vote for Chris Cairns. 102 of 113 in the 2000 Champions Trophy final, because I think this knock was ahead of its time. He's come in at number five, shepherded the innings, built a partnership with Chris Harris, I think. I'm looking at the scorecard as we speak. And yes, it was Chris Harris, another very unassuming all-rounder from New Zealand who scored 46 runs. But yeah, from what, 3 for 82, they took New Zealand over the line. Um, and it was the first real ICC trophy win for New Zealand, right? They've always been an underrated side. They've punched above their weight. Uh, but I think that innings is contextually more important than Travis Head, because Australia keeps winning World Cups anyways, right? That doesn't mean that uh, when they win it again, any of the innings is less important. But I think contextually and comparing the two, I think Chris Cairns is where my vote would lie.
Okay. You just trashed the tournament and then you voted for him. Uh,
Varun, you want to go next? I'll go last.
okay. This is difficult because I was actually conflicted also. And if I vote for one way, it'll be an inconsequential third vote. Because I get it, like Australia have won so much and the stakes were lower in that sense because they're already, but then there was also just a Champions Trophy, right? Against a much weaker Indian team. So it's hard to pick, but I'm actually gonna I'm gonna go with Cairns as well because I think yeah, it was New Zealand were not a great team either, right? Australia have always been a great team, whatever you say, and you always feel like Australia will find a way to win. They still had Maxwell in that turn in that to come Maxwell and Josh Inglis and a few other batters. The score was not that high, so yeah, I actually remember that Cairns innings pretty well because it was particularly heartbreaking because India had not won anything forever, right? And just to see India playing so well that tournament and then snatched again at the last minute. So yeah, I'm going for Cairns also. Sorry, Rahul, I know that
Because
makes your vote
no, but the thing
inconsequential,
was,
but
I,
yeah.
I was also going to go for kids.
Okay.
So it's 3-0.
Yeah, because the Travis Head innings was, of course, it was special, but the thing was, right, someone else would have scored. He was opening, and it was a low score, so Keynes was, yeah, it just made more sense. Talking it through. So earlier on, I was like, Travis Head was going to be in the final for me, but
Same.
talking through this, I'm like,
Oh, he was going to be in the final. Okay, nice. So
Yeah,
now
yeah.
the tournament is wide open.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had him to actually beat Arvinder also. And I also thought he was going to be
Okay.
final. So, but I don't know. You're right. When you talk it through, it just it just changes your perspective. Uh, okay, so we have Arvinder and Chris Ken in the first semi. We'll let them be for a while, contemplate, like give them some time to absorb it, and move on to the right side. Why don't you guys take these two? Because I've spoken about the first couple. So we have uh, Fakhar Zaman in another Champions Trophy final again to defeat India, and then we have the only group stage match. innings here, but it was also pretty consequential innings by Mushfiqur Rahim, and I'll let you guys talk about why. So whoever wants to take each innings.
You want to do Fakar Zaman? I'll do Mushfiq Rahim.
Okay, fair enough. So, Fakhar Zaman, 114 of 106, another Champions Trophy final. Big time heartbreak for India. This was the period when they kept reaching finals but never actually won anything. Um, and Yeah, this knock was quite good, right? I mean, it was destructive. Um, 114 of 106 balls. He basically took the game away, opened the innings, took the game away from India. Pakistan's always been a better side setting totals, and this innings sort of proved why. Because they always had the bowlers to sort of defend even low targets. At that time, they had a good bowling lineup as well. So I think he just the early impetus that he gave to that entire innings just sort of tilted the balance in Pakistan's favor. Um, that being said, he would have been under pressure because India had defeated Pakistan in that tournament in the league stages. So obviously Pakistan were not the favorites to win. So obviously there was some pressure on the openers. Fakhar Zaman was one of the openers, and he would have felt the pressure of sort of having to set up the game for Pakistan. And I think he did that brilliantly because India never really got close to Pakistan's score in that final. So, yeah, top-notch innings, extremely destructive, uh, early impetus, uh, put India on the back foot. It's everything you want your opener to do. And on top of that, he did it in the finals. So, yeah, brilliant innings for me. And yeah, deserves its place there, I think, in this list.
Nice. The 2007 World Cup. That's the World Cup that no one wants to talk about. So, but they beat Bermuda. India beat Bermuda, and then this was the last. I think this was the last game, right? They
No, I think
The
India
first game.
lost to Bangladesh,
Yeah.
then beat Bermuda,
Bermuda
and
and
then lost to Sri Lanka.
oh yeah. So this one they scored what 190 India. I'm just looking at the score right now. And then Bangladesh batted, and no one expected Bangladesh to first bowl India out for 190. And it was also at Port of Spain, which is very strange because India's historically been better at Port of Spain. Uh, but yeah, so 191, and then Bangladesh started batting. Tamim Iqbal was always a pain, but I think Mushfiqur Rahim it was just a better innings, and he just played well. And his strike rate was 52. So his thing was he was just there, just wanted to, just play it out. And yeah, I think that was the sucker punch in Rahul Dravid's career, I believe. That was the one. But yeah, I think under pressure, Bangladesh versus India, India 2003 semi finalists, and coming into this tournament, and I mean that was some victory by Bangladesh, and thanks to this guy.
Yeah. And if you think Bangladesh are
Yeah.
bad today, like they were even worse back then. So they were,
I
uh,
mean,
sorry,
I mean they aren't much better today than what they were
but
back then.
at least they've
They're
done a
definitely
bit.
better. You're right,
Yeah.
but there's a
But
slight
like,
improvement 20
yeah,
years later. But
this was
Back,
also, sorry, what were you saying?
no, no, I was going to say back then Bangladesh was even worse than Kenya.
Yeah, they were
yeah,
just
true.
horrible. Uh,
Yeah,
and this was a very
they
young
still.
team, right? I think Tamim and
Yeah.
Shakib and Mushfiqur were all like teenagers. So yeah, for them to win, and then they made the Super Eights in this tournament.
Great.
So yeah, very.
Yeah.
I was looking at the scorecard again because I knew that Bangladesh won, but I didn't remember the exact contributions. And I know Tamim scored a 50 and then Shakib scored a 50, but he was there. He came in after the first wicket at three, and he scored the winning run. So he kind of guided the whole innings. So yeah,
Yeah.
worthy entry. That said, my vote for this one is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go for Fakhar Zaman because in a final, um, in a like Pakistan's record against India in ICC tournaments is not great. Like they won a couple of Champions Trophy matches before this one, but yeah, in a final, especially they had lost in earlier the tournament to India. So and even though he got out of the no ball, but you gotta ride your luck, right? I think also he ran out. He got Azhar Ali run out, and then but despite that, he kept on. It was very similar to the Arvinda innings in a way. Like he didn't let the situation affect him. He just played his own game. So yeah, my vote definitely goes for Fakhar Zaman.
Okay. I think I'll go next then because then let's just make it a little more interesting because I think I know how the vote is going to go. But I'm just going to say Mushfiqur Rahim's innings was so much better. I think that's my vote. And just because Bangladesh were Bangladesh at that point and India were the superpower and India were expected to win the 2007 World Cup at least, because they lost the 2003. So they were one of the favorites. But yeah, I think that innings was important, which led to Dravid, Ganguly, everyone retiring from cricket altogether. So, in a way, that was a huge milestone for India.
Okay, so it comes down to my vote. So you know what? Um, First of all, yeah, people like Mushfiqur Rahim and all have definitely blossomed into good cricketers, and Bangladesh has improved slightly. The thing they need to really improve is the quality of their commentators because Athar Ali Khan is just disgraceful. I mean, yeah. So, anyways, that being said, now that I really wanted to say that for the last 5 minutes, now that I've said that, um, I will actually cast my vote for Mushfiqur Rahim as well because because again it's context, right? Bangladesh was really bad that time. Pakistan was no better, was not that great, let's say, but Bangladesh was Bangladesh. Like they had literally just uh, barely won any matches. No one expected anything from them. And India came into this World Cup, being this really good, solid side that really chases targets really well. They had Dravid, Ganguly, Tendulkar, Sehwag, all of these stalwarts. And suddenly, first game of the World Cup, Bangladesh roll up, upset India. And Mushfiqur Rahim, even though he batted at a strike rate of 52, actually took them through the all the way to the end. So I think just given the status of Bangladesh at the time, for me, sort of tilts the scales in Mushfiqur Rahim's favor. And yeah, so Fakhar Zaman, I don't know, he's got to wait another time, wait for another time.
I didn't see Mushfiqur Rahim and Arvinder De Silva and Ricky Ponting in the same screen. Yeah,
This is not
Oh,
what
oh,
I
that
oh,
was
was lack of
so
expecting.
I know
realism.
what. So you just said it. So your next vote is for Ricky Ponting. Is that right?
No, I said there's Jayawardene also. He's a very much better than Mushfiqur Rahim. That's a, I guess, yeah, I guess in a way, it affect if you want to think about it from a really large perspective, it meant the three seniors didn't play the T20 World Cup. We went to the young side, won that World Cup, which led to the IPL. And then India not making the Super 8 meant that ICC made very safe draws for the following World Cups, at least 2011 and 2015,
Yes.
where India would have to make it. There was no way they couldn't make it unless they messed up again. But there was no Mushfiqur Rahim in 11 and 15, so India made it. Let's go to the last quarterfinal. And I can't get over this, but let's go to the last quarterfinal. uh, I texted Aditya before this saying I hope he gets
Yeah.
out first round, and
And
but it's
here we
fine.
are.
Yeah, now he's a semi-finalist, and his to find out the worthy opponent in the semis, we have a last quarterfinal, which is Ricky Pont, both ODI World Cup finals, one which India won, one which India lost. Ricky Ponting versus Mahela Jayawardene. Um, okay, who wants to go first? Aditya, why don't you go for Ponting and then I'll speak about Mahela.
Okay, so yeah, so Ponting's innings is one that all Indian cricket fans try to forget but cannot forget, right? Because let's face it, for keeping all the bias and prejudices aside, that innings was an amazing innings. First of all, it's come in a World Cup final. It's come against a strong Indian side. Okay, Australia were always the favorites, but there's pressure going into any finals, and India was a side that was on a roll. I think Ponting's innings just sort of it basically just put India out of the match, right then and there. 140 of 121 in a World Cup final. That's a strike rate of around 115. It's allowed the Australians to put up a target of 350 odd or 360 or something. It's so destructive because the moment he came into bat, till the moment he kind of finished batting, um, he never looked like getting out. He never looked like giving any sort of chance, and the Indian bowlers were basically hammered all over the place. So yeah, I mean, special knock, a captain's innings in the World Cup final. And yeah, after that knock was done, it was really hard to see how India would really win that game because chasing 360 in 2003 was an almost impossible task. So yeah, awesome innings, and yeah, difficult to forget, but I really wish I could.
Yeah, I think we all wish we could. Remember there was a rumor that he had a spring in his bat or something, and then we all
That,
thought
yeah.
that was true.
Yeah.
Because we were gullible teenagers in a pre-internet era. Uh, but I'll speak about the Mahila innings, 2011 World Cup final. Some extra points for this innings because it was in India again, in Mumbai. And World Cup final, I maybe mentioned that, but essentially, like he held the innings together. It's not like they collapsed at any stage, but they kept losing wickets, and then he held the innings together, and then in the end, he really accelerated and got them to 274, which, to be honest, was a decent score. India, of course, managed to win that match because of a couple of innings that we've spoken about in our last podcast, in our last episode. But yeah, he wasn't the captain, but um, really like stood up when it mattered. Yeah, and scored the 103. I think it's the only century in a World Cup final till today, which is in a losing cause as well. So yeah, both great innings. Rahul, why don't you tell us your thoughts and then cast the first vote?
I was just about to say that, that Jayawardene scored the century. That was the first century that actually was on the losing side. Uh, well, Ricky Ponting's innings was just amazing. But the thing about Jayawardene's innings also was he came right in the middle and, he got them to 274. Well, after that, we all know what happened, but that was a good one. But yeah, of course, I think it's kind of straightforward for me at least. It has to be Ponting. That was just that innings was just the morale and everything, and no one thought that they were going to do that.
Okay, should I go next?
So Varun, okay,
Yeah,
go next.
I mean, I like let it slip when I announced the matchup, but yeah, I think for me it's Ponting as well. Both great innings, but Ponting's was in a winning cause. So unfortunately, that does matter a bit more than Mahila's innings. But yeah, they both strong innings. But yeah, for me, it's Ponting also.
Yeah, for me as well, it's Ponting. As much as I don't like Ponting, I think it was Ponting. Uh, Ponting's innings was just, yeah, it was just too good, right? I mean, yeah, India was never going to win that match after that inning. So I think, yeah, Ponting beats Mahela there. And now
It,
we've got a semi-finals.
by
Yeah,
the way, India could have won. It almost rained that day. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that would, yes, yes, that
yeah,
would have been a different story altogether. Yeah.
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 Someone else would have scored in the rematch, and we would have lost, but they could have. Um, okay, so we have our four semi-finalists. Couple of innings, all three innings from ODI World Cup, one innings from a Champions Trophy, two final innings and one semi-final and one group stage somehow. But let's go to the first semi-final. Then Arvinda De Silva 66-47 in the 96 World Cup final versus Chris Cairns against the odds in the 2000 Champions Trophy final. Now, we've spoken about both innings, so I don't know if maybe we can just compare the two. For me, I feel like both were against weaker Indian teams. So there's the team wise who they played against was similar, but Arvinda's innings was in India, and a World Cup even today I think is higher stakes than a Champions Trophy. So and Sri Lanka had never won anything. New Zealand had never won anything as well, but um New Zealand had still made it to semis before this. So they were Sri Lanka was like, this is a kind of rags to riches story from this World Cup, right? So I feel like there's more at stake in the Arvinda innings. But I know Ken's was a strong innings as well. That's all I'm going to say for now. I think let's just all three of us just talk through the two and then we can vote.
Okay. For me, Aravinda's innings were, of course, they're special, Eden Gardens and everything, and well, in India. But even think about the Canes one, right? He came what, five down or something like that. I need to go check. But I think that was also pivotal for New Zealand cricket at that point, right? Because that just got them the first trophy ever. 1996, India was an okay team. It was just Tendulkar mostly. Uh, 2000, I think the team was actually even worse, I think, than the 1996 because they got out in
I
1999.
think the bowling was even worse in
So
2000.
exactly. So I don't know. This is a tough one.
Yeah, it's actually a tough one, especially when you talk through it, right? Because there aren't any specific arguments. Uh, Maybe one thing to consider is that the Chris Gaines innings came in a chase of 240 or 50, I don't remember now. And that's a tricky score, uh, or rather, it's a biggish score. In 2000, that is a biggish score. Now, that was a biggish score. So that's something to consider. Of course, Arvinda's innings was special as well because he's blown away the opposition, basically, demoralized them. And back then, it used to take just one innings to demoralize an opponent because the game was such, right? It was all it took was one innings. Teams never really made comebacks as such after being put down. So, yeah, I mean, both those innings were special. So, yeah, it's a tricky semi-final, this one. Not as straightforward as I thought it would be.
Okay, well, we have to vote, put it to vote for our first finalist. My vote, after speaking so much, is going to be Arvinda. Like, I think that innings did not have an impact on me at the time, but like I said, watching it back, reading about it, I get goosebumps. But when I watched the Cairns innings, I was a bit older then, and I've watched it back a couple of times. I don't get the same feeling. So, at least based just on how the innings make me feel, I'm going to vote for Arvind for this one.
Hmm.
Okay.
Let's
Do you want me to go? Okay. So I think um, um, Arvinda's innings was amazing. Like there's no doubt about it. But I'll stick to what I said before. I think Chris Gaines' his innings is a bit more special. It's come in a chase of 250. Also, he's lasted 113 balls. Now, not that that is that doesn't mean that lasting 47 balls is less worthy. But I just think that he's lasted 113 balls. He shepherded a tricky chase of 250. Um, he's he sort of battled against the odds. I, yeah, I mean, Arvinda's innings is special as well, don't get me wrong, but I think Chris Kenz's innings is probably like 2% better. Because not because it's just come in a chase, but because the circumstances are tougher, right? Uh, there's a lot to lose. It's the finals. Um, that's the last innings basically. He gets out there, and then New Zealand is done. So I think there was a lot riding there on that innings. So it's probably just like 1 or 2% better than the Arvinda innings. Hard to pick, but I think Chris Gaines would be my choice.
Okay, well, up to you.
Uh,
So it's down to you, Rahul.
like again, the Chris Crane's inning was, yeah, that was something. And he was what, four down right now. He came four down and you know, changed the whole game around. Yeah, after him there was like nothing. As much as I hate Arvinder De Silva, it has to be Arvinder. It is, you know, his innings was just, he just killed India at that point. I mean, of course, Tendulkar could have been, great at that game. They would have just, but I think, yeah, after Jaisurya and Kalu Vitarna got out, he was there to shepherd them, and he kept the run rate up. So I think Aruna De Silva.
Okay, well, uh, power of democracy. Again, we have a 2-1 split vote, but Arvinda makes it to the final, where he'll meet one of our other two semi-finalists, both equally talented cricketers. We have Mushfiqur Rahim versus Vicky Ponting. Uh, I think I'll go last at this one because I have very strong thoughts. So maybe either of you want to start.
Yeah, Rahul, you go first this time.
Okay, so again, context. Uh, Australia won the 1999 World Cup with ease. They were favorites to win the 2003 World Cup. They already defeated India in the first match in 2003. So this was kind of expected with India's bowling attack being what it was. It was Zahir Khan, Prasad, and Kumble. So 140 of 121 was. I mean, it was a brilliant innings, but I mean, it was kind of expected. Whereas Mushfiqur Rahim's innings was. I'm just looking at Varun's face.
I'm just saying right now, if we have Mushfiqur Rahim beating Ricky Ponting in any situation other than who's shorter, I am leaving this call.
Context is, I think that was a good innings. Under pressure against a way better opponent than them. So it was a good innings. Again, I'm not going to vote yet, but just saying, just playing the devil's advocate.
So, Varun, do you want to talk about Mushfiqur
No,
Rahim?
no, please go. Go ahead.
So the points that Rahul mentioned, I actually agree. There is context there, right? I mean, the India in 2000, I mean, the Australian team was so strong. Uh, like they were so strong for so many years around that time. Bangladesh was, yeah, they were just Bangladesh. I mean, they won one match in the 1999 World Cup. That too, it was just by luck against Pakistan. In 2003, they lost to Canada. I don't know if you remember that. They lost to Canada chasing 124. They couldn't chase 124 against Canada. That is the Bangladesh that we're talking about. So when they came to the 2007 World Cup. Um, no one expected them to beat India. They even beat South Africa, I think, if I remember well, in that World Cup, and that's how they qualified to the Super Eights. So there's some context. There is definitely something to be said about context here. Um, and yeah, and Ricky Ponting's innings, okay, you would probably expect that from Ricky Ponting. You would expect that from an Australian. So Varun, the question is, would you expect that or something great like this from a Bangladeshi player? I won't cast my vote yet, but instead I ask you the question so that you can lead us to the voting session.
Before that, I will just say there have been many forms of government over the centuries. There's been feudalism, in monarchies, there's been dictatorships, and I think we all ultimately settled on the fact that democracy is the best, all said and done. There are some cases where democracy is not the best, as evidenced here. So I think that's all I have to say. Um, but no, I guess no way I can find Mushfiq's innings was good. We won them a game, um, but didn't have any long-term impact, I think, on Bangladesh cricket. And we're just thinking about the innings in particular, like it was a group stage match, and yes, he got them. He's controlled the innings throughout. But yeah, I guess Ponting's innings was again World Cup final, right? And just because we expected him to do it doesn't mean like it uh, devalues his innings any less. Like he still had to make the runs, right? So we expected Sachin to also score, and he got out for two or three or something, so or four maybe. But yeah, I mean, I all jokes aside, I get both innings because were strong against, and I think that 2003 and 7 India team was fairly similar as well. Obviously, India was a vastly better team than Bangladesh on paper. But yeah, I mean, I feel that for me at least, one innings is clearly better than the other. But let's vote.
Okay, so your vote is done, right?
Yeah, okay,
We
let me vote. I'll just say for me it's Ponting.
Rahul?
oh you want me? So, see again, Ponting was good, but Raheem was really good. The context of all of this. All said, I'm still gonna go for Ponting. Yes, I just better innings, and we just destroyed them. Someone had to do it, so yeah, Ponting.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think I'll go for Ponting as well. I know that contextually Raheem's innings was great and all of that, but yeah, I think Ponting's innings 140 versus what Mushfiqur did. Uh, I mean, Bangladesh fans would remember that Mushfiqur Rahim innings, but I think you ask any cricket fan, everyone remembers Ponting's innings, not necessarily Mushfiqur Rahim's innings. And yeah, it came in a World Cup final. I think yeah, that was some innings. So yeah, so after playing devil's advocate and making Varun literally doubt, the pillars of democracy, in the end, all of us have voted for Ricky Ponting. So it's quite an anticlimax there.
Well,
That's fun.
you definitely shortened my life by about 10 years. Um, but we have our grand final. So we have, after all of this talk, we have two innings, both in ODI World Cups, both in matches that India ultimately lost. Uh, one in a semi-final, one in a final. And yeah, so it's Arvinder De Silva's 66 in the World Cup semi-final of 96 versus Ricky Ponting in the 2003 World Cup final. So I don't know if you want to talk about the innings again. We've spoken so much. Maybe a quick comparison and then we put it to a final vote. First of all, do you think after looking at all these eight, these are worthy finalists? And then we can talk.
I didn't think Mushfiqur Rahim was going to get out of the quarterfinals, but uh, good. Yeah, this looks more comparable. This is like yeah.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I think I think yeah, worthy finalist, but I still think Chris Gaines probably should have made it instead of Arvinder. But again, Arvinda's innings was amazing. Like I said, Chris Gaines' innings for me was probably 1 or 2% better than Arvinder, but that doesn't make Arvinda's innings bad. So yeah, worthy finalists, I think, and the scene is set now.
Yeah. So I don't know. Comparing the two innings, some pros for Arvinda's innings was it was in India. It was a team that was weaker, and it was in a more precarious situation, 1 for 2. Just to give some more context, like India had just beaten Pakistan against the odds again. Pakistan was a much stronger team, so they were on a real high at Eden Gardens. The yeah, a lot of reading, a lot of material around the tournament. Even though Sri Lanka had beaten India previously in that tournament, there was a sense that India were pretty much in the final already. This match was just a formality. So against those odds also, to come in and score 66 without caring about the match situation in a way, um, that's few things in favor of that innings, and few things in favor of Ponting's innings. It was the final. Um, it was obviously he scored more. He scored 140. Both were batting first, but he scored 140. Came in, I think, about 100 for one. It was a great batting pitch, to be honest. So is not, and India were in really good form in that tournament also, and the Indian team was much better than the '96 team. So there's that as well. Um, so yeah, it's hard. It's a hard choice. I'm not going to vote yet as well, but like you guys to talk about both, comparing both as well.
You want to go next or should I?
Yeah, I can say a few words. So yeah, it's really hard to make a decision. I know we're not going to vote right now, but it's really hard to pick between the two. Although I kind of agree with what you said. Sri Lanka were practically minnows at that time, right? I mean, no one was even expecting them to get this far in the World Cup. Of course, England did their usual thing by boycotting some matches and basically gifting points on a platter. So Sri Lanka benefited from that. But still, no one was really expecting them to come to kind of reach the semifinals, let alone the finals, and then let alone winning the tournament. Um, Whereas Ponting, on the other hand, I think the innings itself was brilliant. I think the innings itself was match winning, captain's knock, and all of that. Um, but yeah, it was like a very strong Australian team. So if you take all of that into account, there's something to be sort of said about Arvinda's innings in that sense. But really, really hard to make a choice. Uh, but yeah, we'll come down to that shortly. Uh, Rahul, if you've got any words before that.
Yes. So I think De Silva's innings, right? First semi-final for Sri Lanka. That too in India at, again, I keep saying Eden Gardens because Eden Gardens was that stadium in India, and the fans were like that. So that was a brilliant innings. Ponting's 140 was, again, yes, that just killed India that tournament. But I mean, they already were off to a flyer, right? I think Gilchrist and I'm just looking at the scorecard. Gilchrist was amazing. Matthew Hayden surprisingly was not on form, but yeah, they were already 100 for one, 105 in 13 overs. So they were already off to a flyer. So I think yeah, but again, 140 in a final is something.
Yeah. So, well, I guess it's time to make a decision. I don't know who. I went first for the last one. It was much easier choice, but
I can I
yeah,
can
why don't you
go.
go first? You're our guest.
I Yes. Okay, thanks. I think given the importance of the innings, I think De Silva was just better. Was way more important because the Ponting was 140, yes, but they were already just looking at the scorecard. They were 113 overs in 2003. So they were going to go over 250 easy. And there was also Damian Martin was there, Darren Lehman, Michael Bevan. They were all waiting to come. So I think that was just. And if Arvinda got out at that point, I don't know if they would have won the match or not. So I'm going to say Arvinda.
Who wants to go?
Okay,
Should I go or you
I
want to
can
go?
go next.
Yeah, go.
Okay, you go. No, you go.
Okay, well, I'm gonna make it boring, I think, because I was thinking about
Okay.
it's hard to pick, man, because they're both such great innings, and I know Pontings was in a final, and as much as I talked him up last time, but his competition was not so strong. I and he's yeah, Australia would have maybe if they had lost that match, they would still have been a strong team. Arvinder basically put Sri Lanka on the map. And then he also scored in the final, which is inconsequential to this, but just putting that additional context. So yeah, I think I'm going to vote for Arvinder as well.
Yeah, so I think we have a unanimous vote, a unanimous agreement here. I think I'm also going to vote for Arvinda. I think, um, I think what he did that innings was a milestone moment for Sri Lanka, right? They won that World Cup um, as minnows. It changed a lot for them. It kind of gave birth to this golden Sri Lankan generation that came right after. So it was Arvinda, Arjuna, and all, but also after that, the likes of Murli and Sangakkara and Jayawardena and all these people. I think that innings was more impactful, not just as an innings that influenced the match, but also influenced Sri Lanka cricket. Um, and yeah, I think just again, it's all about the context. I think the context here tips the scales in the favor of Arvinda. So yeah, I think yeah, we all agree that the Arvinda innings was better than Ponting's innings.
So, well, I'm glad we have a unanimous winner. It was fun. We all disagreed in different parts. That's the fun of this. But ultimately, we did have a unanimous winner. Interestingly, when I first looked at this draw, I didn't have Arvind in the final. I had a head versus Ponting final. I was all set to say, uh, 20 years
I had
apart,
this.
two Australians.
I had the same thing. I was like, it's going to be Travis Head versus Ricky Ponting in the final,
Yeah,
and then the
I
argument is
felt
over
Chris
there.
Gaines in the final. Um,
Yeah.
Question before we wrap up. We've said which is the best innings, but which was the most, as an Indian fan, which is the most painful innings for you out of all of these?
Travis Head.
I think for me it was Ponting.
So
I think the 2003 World Cup just had a buzz around it. Like it was just a spectacle. I don't know
Also, was
why, but it
younger,
was
right?
just a
That's
spectacle.
yeah.
I think it was
Yeah,
Mandir Ali.
exactly. No, 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 not really. Uh, no, uh, no, yuck, no. Okay.
Oh,
No, but really, it was just like amazing to watch. There was just so much of a vibe around it. It was just like, yeah. And then India's, all of that stuff, the huddle and this and that, Ganguly, like, taking everybody on, and India's just like beating opposition one after the other after losing to Australia. I think that was just a vibe to that. And Ricky Ponting was like the perfect dampener for me in the finals. So I think, yeah, that one for me, that was the worst pill to swallow, so to speak.
yeah.
Oh, the Travis Head one just hurt. Sorry.
Travis Head, I don't know. It was unfortunate, but I feel like maybe because I'm so much older, it didn't affect me so much. Maybe because you're older, you have so many other things to worry about in life that you just like it's okay, it's a game. Like, yeah, we
Yeah,
lost. Still have to go to
yeah,
work and pay mortgage. So like it's I guess when we like Ricky Ponting's inning kind of destroyed like I was like 14. So it like destroyed your innocence in a way. Like you felt like, wow, this team is really good now. We're on a roll, we're gonna win. And then he just came and just completely decimated any hope. And then like yeah, it was a very sad day. Like in hindsight it's again not a big deal, but at the time it felt like a really sad day.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Um I think we can wrap up here. I hope everyone enjoyed watching this. And I know there might be some disagreements. We had some disagreements even making this list of eight, but ultimately we had some good fun making this. Rahul, any thoughts with your first appearance? What do you thought?
Oh, it's fun. It was fun getting Mushfiqur Rahim to the semi-finals. So, that was a good. I didn't
Yeah.
think he was going to score, but that was a good innings. But yeah,
So,
it was
well,
fun.
yeah. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you next time with something more fun.
See you next time.